All right, I'll go ahead and kick this off. First, I want to thank everybody for their time this morning, joining us on another one of TPI's hosted webinars. We've got Eric Polovich and Kirk Armstrong from Omnilert with us today to talk about AI visual gun detection. We're going to give Eric the floor as he goes through what Omnilert is, how it works, and how our integrators can benefit from it. But I also want to take the opportunity to, on behalf of TPI, thank you for joining. You can see your rep territory and information on the screen now. If you have any questions about this product or others, please reach out to your TPI rep. If there are other products or topics that you would like to learn more about in one of the webinar sessions, please reach out to your TPI rep and let us know. Again, thank you, Eric and Kirk, for joining us. The floor is yours.
All righty. My name is Eric Polovich. I'm joined here by Kirk Armstrong, and today we're going to talk about Omnilert visual firearm detection. Omnilert Gun Detect. It is an artificial intelligence visual detection method that uses existing camera footprints to detect weapons in frame, much in the same way a human being does by seeing it. We then use Omnilert's extensive experience in integration and communications to facilitate a quick human-in-the-loop review and ultimately action up to and including escalation to local first responders. We're going to go through a few things today from myself and Kirk. Kirk is one of our national sales executives. We're going to talk a little bit about what the product is, how it works end to end, how deployment works. Then we're going to take some questions at the end of the session. Kirk's going to kind of chime in as needed and cover any sales related questions, while I'm going to focus mostly on the technology and how things work end to end. So first off, Omnilert has been around for about 20 years. It's actually something that sets us apart from most of the AI space. We were founded in 2004 as a mass communication specialist. We did emergency alerting before emergency alerting was really a large thing. Started in higher education and K through 12, expanded out to corporate footprints, government, wherever people needed to be kept safe. That really made us experts in getting information where it needs to be very quickly. But our goal has always been to keep people safe. And Gun Detect is just the next step of that. We launched the product in 2019, and it has grown quite a bit since then. As I said, we were launched in 2004 as a company with the goal of keeping people safe. There's really no bigger danger to the populace in America these days than gun violence, especially if you look at it statistically. It's the #1 cause of death among children and teens, and these numbers aren't going down. They have been rising year over year, although we've seen a dip here and there. The averages keep going up. And it's not just the immeasurable human cost, something that we can't get back, but the cost to businesses, communities, and other folks that really is a part of the reason that we're committed to this. It's not just a dollar and cents cost. It is, as I said, a cost to communities in locations where there's a big box grocery chain that may be the only one for miles around. A shooting at that location can shut it down permanently, causing a food desert in rural areas where you've got these big box retailers that may service an entire city or an entire county, not just as a place to go to get your groceries and your sundries, but also as one of the largest employer. We've seen this statistically where a shooting occurs there and that business goes away, impacting the entire community. I do a lot of presentations, a lot of conversations about our Gun Detect technology, and it really begs the question when I'm talking with organizations, how are people identifying guns in their environment today? And there's a lot of answers. A lot of the time I hear about metal detection. It's not as many as you'd hear other things. They change the environment of a location, audible gunshot detection, hearing a gun, and then reacting to an incident in progress. Traditional surveillance cameras come up quite a bit. Relying on people to see a gun and react is probably the most common. See something, say something. Hope a bystander sees something and raises the alarm. But we've got a lot of technology out there that we've designed and deployed to prevent tragedy. Exterior cameras started becoming popular in the 80s and 90s, and they were probably where we put a lot of our technological dollar. Everything from a company to a school to a college campus to a distribution center, they're looking through exterior cameras. But the big secret about surveillance is that it's no longer preventative. There are so many cameras in the US, 85 million plus at last count, but human eyes are not a part of that picture. There's too many cameras for us to keep an eye on. The idea of a security operations center with a dozen security professionals looking at a wall of camera screens and and looking for trouble, that's something we see in the movies. It's not in real life. Most organizations have a handful of people, one or two, looking at hundreds or thousands of cameras. People just can't keep up. And even if they could, after an amount of time, 10, 15 minutes, their attention wavers. Sometimes they come in after having a bad day on the weekend and they don't perform as well as they used to. They get fatigued. They take breaks. AI doesn't do that. It can mission-minded monitor as many streams as you plug into it, looking for weapons, finding those guns. Exterior cameras are probably the most popular because that's where gun issues start. 50% of shootings in this country start outside. 80% of shootings in K through 12 institutions start outdoors, then move in. That gives us not only the opportunity, but the time to make a difference. And as Kirk likes to say, time is probably your most important resource in an emergency situation. So how can Omnilert make a difference? Well, we utilize our best of breed artificial intelligence and our communication expertise to see a gun in seconds and then raise the alarm seconds later. We're talking about, literally seconds, not minutes, not see a gun, make a phone call, wait on hold for 30 seconds, spend a minute or so describing the situation to the 911 operator on the other side. We're talking about a visually verified event, making directly in the hands of first responders so that they can see what's going on with that context and respond appropriately. We do this through an end-to-end workflow. Starts with our Omnilert AI detecting a weapon. I'll talk about that in a moment. We move on to human in the loop verification because I think that you need a human there in order to be held accountable. And then we activate people and systems to put out a unified response. And we do all this in seconds. It all does start with our AI detecting a weapon. And our AI has a pretty good pedigree. The technology started getting used for this sort of thing back in the early 2000s in the military, of course, the Middle East, looking for missiles moving about 200 meters per second. Omnilert staff was there. Chad, our director of AI, was a part of that DARPA project, basically seeing missiles and deploying deterrence automatically in split-second timing. He had a tragedy at home, lost a loved one to the Sandy Hook shooting, and said, how can I take this technology, make a difference on the home front? Gun Detect is the fruition of that dream. It's not just an AI model that we got off the shelf, as is very popular these days. This is something that was designed from the ground up with experience in military technology. It's a multi-step detection algorithm, a true neural network that doesn't just look for guns. Yes, we're looking for handguns, rifles, we're looking for revolvers, we're looking for sporting guns, AR-style automatic weapons, but we're also looking for benign objects. We're looking for water bottles, cell phones, purses, backpacks, torque wrenches, drills, staple guns, the list goes on and on. We do this so that we can sort the wheat from the chaff. When we identify a gun, we want to be sure that that is a weapon and that it's not something else. Third, we take context into account. We want to make sure that that thing that we think is a gun is behaving in a way that a firearm behaves. We make all of these hundreds or thousands of decisions per second. And then when we identify positively a weapon, we're very sure that that is a gun. We want to be there not just for those, accuracy metrics, but also for speed. We're here for those blink and you miss it moments, a gun that's flashed out of a pocket for a moment, transferred from a locker into a backpack, out of the trunk of a car and beneath a jacket. It's not just guns moving measuredly through space, although we're very good at doing that as well. It's about those quick hits. We can actually identify a weapon in a fraction of a second. And we monitor these frames at these feeds at true frame rate, giving us dozens of opportunities per second to check these guns. You'll see how the AI works here. Those white boxes identify individuals. We zoom in on those people in frame. We start looking for what they're interacting with, whether they're interacting with a firearm like that shotgun or a torque wrench like that gentleman that walked through before. We can differentiate between guns and gun-like objects. Context, again, playing a key role. That holstered weapon being ignored. But as soon as a hand bridges the gaps, we see it as a weapon threat. That's when we identify very quickly. We do this because we deploy in locations with armed law enforcement, armed security, open carry states. Of course, we're less forgiving for a rifle. I think even in an open carry state, you want to know when an AR-15 walks onto your premises. We are designed for the real world. And in the real world, there's a lot going on. It's not just one or two people walking measuredly through a scene. It's hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people passing in front of a camera in a day. Locations that a human monitor wouldn't be able to keep up with, or locations that wouldn't be on that human monitor's rotation. The eyes of Omnilert Gun Detect are there, whether it's a busy scene or a scene that, you might have a camera there just in case. We're compatible with the newest technology, whether it's high resolution cameras, cameras that are moving like pan tilt zooms, multi-sensor domes. It's about operating on the existing camera footprint so that we can utilize that hardware, that technology stack, and give it a lift. Give it that set of eyes, mission-minded, looking for a weapon when and where it appears, and allowing you to react to it faster and better. As Kirk said, giving you those crucial seconds and minutes back during an emergency situation. Up next, we do involve a human in the loop for verification. I think I might have mentioned it earlier. I mention it all the time. IBM said it best in the 70s. You want to make sure that there's a human in the loop so that you can be held accountable, because you can't hold a computer accountable. We can put that information wherever it needs to be. About 90% of our customers use Omnilert monitoring. That's going to be our series of geographically distributed, redundant central stations, for lack of a better term, that can quickly vet and take action, including PSAP escalation. But we can put that information directly into an organization's security operations center. If you've got a robust SOC, like if you're a large hospital, if you're a secure corporate facility, you may want it in there via your control room platforms. We can do that. If you want it in your small organization, on your cell phone in your pocket for your student resource officer that's walking around the halls, or maybe just you and your partner working at the local retail chain, we can do that. We can also involve third-party monitoring systems. So if you don't like Omnilert monitoring, you can use your own. The main reason folks go with Omnilert monitoring is because of options. It's all about the options and the speed. This is going to be a series of distributed central stations, professionals that speak with first responders on a daily basis and work with emergency situations for, a living. It's not just a bunch of employees that we have sitting in a room in the back looking at screens. This is professional threat escalation agents that are vetting and then taking action. And we work with a partner for this. It's a company called Noonlight. They're a division of alarm.com. We've been working with them for a very long time. And they give us great performance. We get priority on incoming visual events, and they handle all of the thousands of events that we put through to them on an annual basis very quickly. Our escalation average for 2025 from the time they receive to the time they take action is about 7 seconds. That means our end-to-end, from the time a gun is presented to the camera to the time that our clients are being notified and action is being taken, is about 10 seconds. Of course, human-in-the-loop verification has the secondary benefit of reducing that already low false positive rate out of our artificial intelligence. Mostly, though, it's about options, as I said. Escalation, not just to your staff, but also to local first responders. And when they escalate programmatically. They do it in a way that is compatible with computer-aided dispatch, mobile terminals, and in-car systems. So they're not just picking up a phone and calling 911 and saying, hey, there's a gun at location X. They're passing along rich, robust data, images of the detection, video, and location, as well as being that cool, calm voice on the other end of the line so that they can facilitate communication between the affected client and the incoming first responders. And this all happens in seconds. Gun is presented to the screen, 10 seconds later, that emergency response has begun. A lot faster than the minute or so that it would take for someone to dial 911, the 2 or 3 minutes it would take to verify the threat on site and then enact a local escalation procedure. In the case that we're going directly to security operations centers, we do it through video management platforms and other control room platforms. We can plug that AI directly into those units and then improve them, allowing them, when a gun is detected, to take action. push it back down to your VMS, trigger those integrations, bring up the active camera, let people know what's going on so that our clients can enact their already robust active shooter response. Of course, we can also incorporate Omnilert in the mix using our communications experience to put it out to other local cloud connected or even individuals wherever they may be. You're at a local SOC, you want to connect to the GSOC, you want to connect to the president of the company 3 states away, Omnilert can facilitate that. That activation is a big part of the puzzle, making sure that when an emergency occurs, that the predefined response happens quickly and accurately. And we touch on a number of different pieces in our clients' ecosystems, whether it's automatically locking doors with access control, raising the alarms with security system integration, pushing that information down to the video management solution so it can record, bring up the active camera, trigger subsequent integrations, alert the populace at large through emergency notification system integration. All of this, aside from connecting directly to local threat response professionals so that we can have help on the way. We work in a large ecosystem of partners to make this happen. When I'm talking with clients a lot, I bring a slide like this up and I see people pointing and nodding, technologies they're already using on a daily basis, we're already integrating with. And we've got a team of integrators that we work with on a daily basis to expand that footprint. Whether you're using, a Genetec and a Vigilon, whether you're using an emergency notification system from Rave or Everbridge. We're compatible with the most popular systems out there, and we're willing to bring more partners on as we need to expand. Mentioned a couple times in the presentation that we're here about, we're a real world focused company with a real world designed product. And that's because I think that there's too much marketing out there talking about numbers like, within seconds or, 0 to 3 seconds, we're going to have the help on the way. It's unrealistic in most cases, but we do have the numbers to back up a lot of what we talk about. Our average time to detect is 0.36 seconds. And that's going to be regardless of whether it's in bright daylight, artificial lighting, or even, light amplification using, cameras that brighten up a scene at night. Getting that information where it needs to be is going to be the speed of the network and the speed of the internet, which means if we're putting it in a local security operations center, that last mile is going to be nearly instantaneous. Pushing it out to our Omnilert monitoring centers, you're talking about a bottleneck of a second or two at most. Our real world performance metrics for our verification in 2025 has been 7 seconds from receipt to action. What that means is that from end to end, when we include the transport time of that action back to the local facility, on average around 10 or 11 seconds from the time the gun is presented to the screen, to the camera, to the time action is being taken locally. First responders notified, point of contact engaged, integrations triggered, 10 or 11 seconds on average. That's before a shot's fired, not in response to a shot. Numbers don't lie, and in this case, this is real world numbers, not marketing. So I'm going to pause here, give Kirk and I an option to weigh in if he wants before I start talking about deployment, implementation, and the techie stuff. Kirk?
Yeah, Eric, I think you brought up some really great points. And for every 3 seconds that goes by in an active shooter situation, that could be injury or death. The fact that we identify a weapon in 1/3 of a second and can turn that around on average in 11 seconds, there's a lot to be said in that time frame. We're not taking a model-driven analytic and going to a database of photographs and looking for that particular object that the analytic thinks it sees that then has to be verified by a human in the loop and then sent back to you. 2 things I want people to remember is that we don't tell you how to do business with us. Once that gun is detected, number one, once that gun is detected, we identify that weapon and send it wherever you want. Are we sending it to your security operations center? Are we sending it to hospital staff, administration, and or hospital police? Are we sending it to your school resource officers that are on staff using their telephones? Giving them a description of the individual, a location of the individual by camera and notifying them within seconds of that event taking place, not sending it to another security operations center, going through that model-driven data analytic or model-driven analytic database, and then trying to verify the weapon for a human in the loop. Our data-driven analytic gives you a confidence score, which you saw that score as Chad was running across with the AR-15, as he was drawing it out of the holster, as our friend at the controlled housing unit was taking it out of his pocket. That variable analytic is looking at that weapon and giving you basically a data-driven fingerprint or image of that weapon. The more of the weapon it sees, the more the analytic is confirming that weapon. That's what allows us to identify that gun in a third of a second and be able to send it speed of the internet wherever you want. Our sock, your grandmother in the kitchen baking cookies, it doesn't matter. So we don't tell you how to do business with us. We do business the way you want us to once that weapon is identified. The second thing I want you to remember is it's not our job to tell you that you have to update, upgrade, or improve some of your current infrastructure. We look at that infrastructure and we say, how can we bring that up a notch and enhance what you already have by implementing gun detection AI to that process? Are we implementing it to network video monitors? Are we doing horn strobes and sirens? Are we doing talk down? Are we initiating integration to Raptor, Rave, Everbridge, to your access control system? All of that is paramount to bringing what you already have up a notch, be it a 2-megapixel camera, hooking into the RTSP stream of that camera, and so forth. So keep that in mind. Those are key selling points to Omnilert, is the fact that we integrate with what you have existing and we don't tell you how to do business with us. Anything else, Eric?
No, that's good. And that's a good lead into my next point here, which is, in deployment, cameras are probably one of the first things that we start thinking about. And long story short, we're camera agnostic. We don't care if it's Hanwha, Axis, the best and brightest. We don't care if it's something from one of the internet VMS companies like Verkada or Rhombus, or if it's something that was purchased off the shelf at Costco. We can integrate with most digital IP cameras out there. All we need is an RTSP stream. And these days, that's from almost everything, except you get those closed systems like a Ring doorbell or maybe a Wise camera. When we're talking professional security cameras, we're integrating with the vast majority of them. What we care about is the quality of that data, the quality of the stream that we get. We need a pixel-rich image to detect. Typically, that's going to be 1080p or above, 2 megapixel. That's very common out there. We still can detect on a 720p image. I actually was discussing that with a client this morning. They have some lower resolution cameras that are specifically deployed to capture people walking through doors or coming through gates outside, 5 or 10 feet from the camera lens. Perfect use case for a lower resolution camera. Now, this isn't the sort of thing that you're going to want to put in a parking lot looking at things 30, 40 feet away. That's when you need that 1080p or even above. We're getting detection out to literally hundreds of feet from the lens on higher resolution cameras in specifically tuned situations. The image itself is what we care about, not the vendor. When we deploy our artificial intelligence on site, usually as close to the cameras as we can get, just unless we have an organization that's connected by fiber over a citywide footprint. Makes deployment easy. It's a pre-configured appliance from Omnilert. If we've got a larger client with hundreds or thousands of cameras, we may switch over to some custom hardware, rack mount servers with a large number of video cards in them to process hundreds of cameras apiece. We do use a lot of processing power off these units, and that's why we use a direct to GPU pipeline. We're using NVIDIA graphics cards in those, which keeps the cost pretty far down, and we can handle somewhere between 20 and 40 or so cameras on that small appliance. The deployment itself usually makes the decision of what sort of rollout we're going to do when it comes to hardware. Example here, we've got a K through 12 district in the Northeast, 170 different distinct locations, school campuses, stadiums, academic administration offices, 8,000 or so total cameras over that footprint. Their deployment is going to be a number of Omnilert appliances at each location. Drop them in a wiring closet or a server room to handle the local cameras. Camera streams stay on site, so no privacy concerns. And the only thing to leave that organization's location is going to be the alert events themselves. And we've got the ability to dispatch locally to each of those locations. So we're not just telling local administration. We're not just telling central security. We're telling everyone, and we're dispatching towards the actual location affected. If we've got a larger location, say a stadium, a distribution center, a hospital that has many cameras in one place, we may switch over to using larger rack mount servers, processing millions of images on a daily basis. This allows us to get that lift of having one unit in the big server room there without having to worry about monitoring or maintaining a dozen different servers. And we're used in all sorts of environments. I mentioned K through 12. I mentioned healthcare, just because they're two of the most popular. We are deployed in Baltimore. That's that 8,000 camera client that I was talking about. They were looking for a proactive solution that could scale across their hundreds of schools and that 8,000 camera footprint. But they wanted to maintain a unified safety posture. Traditional surveillance, as in most of these cases, was only being used as a forensic tool. It's valuable after an incident, but it's not fast enough to prevent a tragedy. Staffing every site with trained personnel, whether that was student resource officers, whether that was someone to monitor the doors, if they deployed something like metal detection. Remember, with metal detection, you need to have trained staff to monitor those doors all the time when you're open. My child actually goes to school here in Buffalo at a place that's equipped with some metal detection. They've got 5 entrances to the school. That's $30,000 to $40,000 per entrance just in hardware costs. That's without talking about staffing. Baltimore ultimately decided to go with Omnilert Gun Detect, and we deployed across their entire distributed camera network, transforming their IP cameras into active sensors. This delivers real-time AI detection of visual firearms across all of their campuses. These verified detections are routed through to Omnilert monitoring, and then once verified, we can do a number of things. We notify their designated district safety officials. We notify local boots on the ground, vice principal, SRO. We dispatch police directly via PSAP 911 integration, and we can trigger emergency response protocols, things like lockdowns with access control, local alerts, alarms, etc., in seconds. This gives you wide protection without hiring any additional staff, and we have all of the benefits we already talked about. Actionable intelligence put in the hands of everyone in that alerting chain, reduced response times, and we can support both that centralized school level oversight as well as the distributed oversight to the other security stakeholders in the district. Speaking about healthcare, very similar situation. Hospitals are probably the most challenging environments to secure. Main entrances may have metal detectors, but they only cover a fraction of the entry points. Emergency rooms, side clinics, secondary entrances, the back door, the loading dock, they're high traffic and high risk. But if you've been in a hospital, their lack of security manpower really, it means that they don't have enough ability to do constant screening at every one of these entrances. Traditional approaches just leave dangerous blind spots. Hospital in question here, Texas Children's down in Texas. They deployed Omnilert on 2,500 cameras, like I said earlier, using larger custom servers in their server room locally. This creates that real-time firearm detection coverage at every door, every high traffic corridor, and every exterior zone. This bridges the gaps where metal detectors just aren't feasible. Still running metal detectors on the front door, that layered solution covering those areas where metal detectors can't. One last use case, something I haven't spoken about recently, distribution centers. And I know Kirk's going to want to chime in on this one. Distribution and fulfillment, it's just critical to our supply chain. They handle thousands of employees, contractors, trucks moving in and out every day. The highest of traffic. A shift change could involve 3,000 plus people moving in and out of that business. Difficult to secure, high traffic, many access points, and really large outdoor perimeters. Recent trends show that Gun violence is increasingly impacting logistics and distribution. This puts not just our supply chain, but workers, drivers, and operators at risk. Traditional methods are just not feasible. They don't scale across these sprawling, city-sized facilities. In this case, Omnilert Gun Detect, specifically for this client, which I'll let Kirk talk about in a moment, provides wide area visual firearm detection by leveraging some existing security cameras, but deploying new cameras out into parking lots, yard gates, loading docks, and warehouse entrances. We tie in to either local network, or we run completely off network with cellular modems, ensuring coverage in even those remote IT restricted environments. In this case, covering entire parking lots and exterior fences to give them a bubble of protection that doesn't affect their operations, and being off network doesn't affect their local IT footprint. This keeps operations smooth and avoids costly shutdowns. I'm going to talk about off-network deployment for just a moment, then I'll let Kirk come back and talk about that distribution center. A lot of environments make it difficult to deploy on network. They don't want anything touching their internal systems, whether it's their camera systems, whether it's compliant rules, IT restrictions, or just a lack of connectivity. We can run independently of customer networks using cellular, using dedicated internet, and our standalone appliances, whether it's that small footprint device to handle 20 or 30 cameras, or putting in something like a small Jetson unit that handles a light pole like you see here, or one of those trailer units like you see there. This means faster deployment, reduced IT dependency, and secure isolation for those security conscious customers. Kirk, you want to go ahead and talk about that logistics and distribution implementation that we're doing?
Sure. I won't say the name of the company, but I will tell you they are one of the top 2 retailers in the world. And they vetted us for over a year and a half. The off-network solution was very crucial and critical to the operation, and being able to compete against our strongest competitors and really come out on top exponentially is what set us apart. It was based on creativity, it was based on accuracy, and it was based on speed. Speed of identification of the weapon, being able to send that to our call center and turn it around in about 8 seconds on the average using an off-network solution. Anybody that tells you you don't have false detections within an analytic, they're just flat out lying to you. You will have false detections. Our false detection rate is extremely low. And Eric, I'll let you talk about that a little bit more. And when I say extremely low, it's extremely low. I attribute a lot of that based to that data-driven analytic that I talked about earlier. And the data-driven analytic is kind of what set us apart from our competitors in this trial run that we did with this very, very large retailer. When you have thousands of employees that are checking in to work a shift and then checking back out, and they're crossing each other in the parking lot, you're going to have demographics that mix. You're going to have issues that mix. And as a result, the risk mitigation of some of those situations in the parking lot and at the front of the building is kind of what prompted us to be able to support this customer. In the end, it was speed of identification, accuracy of that identification, getting a good, solid confidence score of the weapon, and then being able to turn that notification around in expeditious fashion. Time is of the essence. Time to engage, talk down, or take out that threat is what the customer was looking for. And they're doing site hardening for a lot of different reasons, and gun detection was layered into that. Eric, go ahead.
Sure. And I mean, really the use cases for Omnilert are very broad. Anywhere where people are considering audible gunshot detection, metal detection, anywhere where there's gun violence issues, we're servicing. Event venues, stadiums, like we saw in the video roll, retail, whether it's covering interior of a gas station or the parking lot of a big box store, municipal transit. We're deployed on buses, keeping an eye over the shoulder of the driver to see what's going on as in a moving piece of transportation. We're working with banks. We're working with houses of worship and nonprofits. Anywhere that has the need to keep people safe is a good fit for a technology like this. The cameras are there. Why not activate them with an AI? We are very standards and security conscious. We are compliant with HIPAA, FERPA. We don't use any biometric data. We're not transporting any sensitive information. And we did receive full Safety Act designation from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. It means that we're working well with everybody, not just our partners. I get asked probably on a daily basis about whether we have, stopped a shooting, whether we've detected firearms in production. Have we stopped a shooting? I can't positively say. It's hard to prove the negative. But we are getting firearms in production, not tests, not demos, not staged, not pilots, on a daily basis. Snapshot here is from August of this year, 48 production detections, a little lower than our average, but that was the most recent data that I could grab. That means that we're on pace in 2025 to get more than 2,200 firearms across all deployment types: interiors, exteriors, rooftops, off those trailers. These span every sort of venue: parking lots, ticketing counters, retail floors, street corners. 2,000 of those 2,200 or so detections will have gone through Omnilert monitoring, meaning they're not going SOC direct. That means that they will have been vetted with a response time average of, like I said, that 10 seconds or so end to end. From the time they get it to the time they take action, an average of 7 seconds. This real world performance, quite simply, is why we're trusted by some of the largest enterprise scale customers across retail, education, healthcare, municipalities, and more. Now, I'm going to open it up for questions in a second, but Kirk did tell me that he wanted me to talk a little bit about the AI, so I'm going to address that. You mentioned our data-centric analytic. It is a data-centric neural network that we're using. This is a true decision-making piece of software. And the reason that we point out that it is data-centric rather than model-centric is because there's some inherent value we get there. Without getting too technical, what does this mean? It means that we use relevant data, not large amounts of data. Think of it as quality over quantity. Every piece of data that we use to train our AI is relevant to the situation. Real world footage, no green screen, no computer generated imagery. It means that it takes longer to develop an AI like this, but when it does, it is more flexible, less bias, and it's trainable. What this means is that every 6 to 8 weeks, we update not just our software, but our AI, taking new detections, new profiles, both weapon profiles and non-weapon profiles, and tuning for new environments, tuning out bad performance, tuning in good performance, which means that our system actually improves the longer it's in place. We learn from the environments that we're placed in. We learn from what we're seeing on a daily basis. Those detections, both the frequent positive detections and that low false positive number of detections that we do get when they occasionally do come through, let us train the system for accuracy. I don't think that false positive numbers mean too much in this industry. They're all over the place. I've seen requests on RFPs for a 10% false positive rate. What does that mean? There's a lot of different ways to measure it. If you measure us based on the industry standard, we sit at a 0.00001, I think, false positive rate. And our accuracy rate out of the box without any tuning, 99.9. I think that goes a long way. So that being said, it's all about duty of care here. I think, especially in the environment that we live in the U.S., organizations are asked more and more to keep people safe in our ever-changing security environment. 40 years ago, school fires were a big problem. We addressed it. We put in smoke alarms. We put in fire suppression systems. We drilled our students so that they can, be aware of what to do when a fire occurs. And that means that since the 1970s, we have had one death in a school fire. We took action. What used to be hundreds a year became one in decades. I think that gun violence is a real, foreseeable and preventable threat, and that really requires systematic prevention. That's what Omnilert Gun Detect is all about. So I'll go ahead here, and Chloe, is there anything you wanted to or anyone over from TPI, anything you guys wanted to touch on, or we can open it up for questions?
Yeah, actually, I've got a little bit of a prompt, I guess. So for TPI, our audience is largely going to be security integrators. Can you speak a little bit to what kind of a lift bringing on Omnilert as a product that they'd like to offer their customers, what does that look like for an integrator? Is there
Sure.
training, certifications? Do they need a specialist on this product?
Yeah, let me address that, and then I'll put it over to Kirk to talk a little bit more about the sales side of things. We work very well with others. We are opening up not just for working with integrators as a partner for deployment, but also for reselling and referring. We do that every day. Our goal from deployment is to work well with our customers' systems. We want to make sure that we're as unobtrusive as possible to our SI partners and how they do things. We rely on SIs and partners a lot when it comes to not just getting the word out and being aware of our technology, but assisting with deployment. Rolling out Gun Detect is not it's not rocket science. Most of the deployment is getting that local server on-prem, connecting to those cameras, and then everything else kind of happens on the back end. We can be as involved or as hands-off as our SI partners need us to be, but we are a partner in this implementation, handling a lot of the things like designing out those workflows, building them out, connecting to the Omnilert backend. And we work with our integrators very closely on a daily basis. It's not a, leaving it out in the cold. We're talking about as much as you need a salesperson to sit on a call and talk about how we structure our licensing, Kirk can be there. You want someone to walk through a presentation with someone that you're bringing in to talk about it, heck, I can be there. Kirk can run that. We've got a handful of other partners on our end. Need a tech expert in the room? Let's grab a sales engineer to sit there with you. We're very hands-on with our partners. I'll let Kirk talk about the sales side.
Yeah, the sales side, there's a lot of things that probably come to mind from those of you that are on the call right now. How do I deal with IT? What are some of the key stakeholder points that I want to get out during my demonstration or during my discussion with the customer? We're very IT friendly, as Eric mentioned earlier. Being able to have just a 480 outbound port, you're not punching a hole in the firewall, you're not violating the customer's network. All I need to do is dump that event out to AWS and have speed of the internet go into the call center, be it my call center, yours, or whoever's. Okay. The other thing to remember too is the difference between a model-driven analytic and a data-driven analytic. I think that is a key differentiator, not only in the speed and identification of the firearm, but also in the speed and identification of the notification that's going out to your key stakeholders, your administrative people, your first responders, whether you've got direct to dispatch for a school, whether you've got a hospital with a on-site police force, whatever. Time is of the essence, and it's all about the risk mitigation of that time frame. So those are some of the key things that you want to deal with. Eric mentioned we've got the largest deployment in the continental United States with Baltimore County Schools, having over 8,000 cameras deployed in that infrastructure with 170 locations with our appliances, and those appliances being robust and working and staying in place in the manner that they do. When you as an integrator install those, you put it in the rack, you plug it in, you turn it on. The appliance is loaded with the IP addresses that we agree with the customer up front, and all you do is turn it on and plug it in, or vice versa. In this case, we then AnyDesk into it, and we look at the frame rates and the field of view for the cameras, and we expand on those to be able to get the longest distance for gun detection. Again, maximizing the leveraging of the infrastructure that the customer has by utilizing the existing cameras in place. I want to open that field of view. I want to increase that frame rate. I want to be able to get the longest distance, 40 pixels per foot, multiplied times however megapixels that camera is, gives me a longer detection distance. Those are just some of the things that you want to talk about during those discussions, and that will dispel a lot of myths or a lot of problems and hurdles that your original stakeholder has to get over with key decision makers and influencers. Being able to give them the ammunition that they need, no pun intended, to be able to go to those senior leadership people and talk to them about, hey, I think I've got a great product here. I think it may work for this customer or this location. And then you've got a customer that's not only confident in what you're presenting to them, but they have a better understanding of how it works for those stakeholders. Go
I
ahead,
want to
Eric.
mention. I want to mention two things there, just because I realized that I didn't address the certification question that you had asked, Chloe. We do not currently have a certification program for our SI partners. It's something we're working towards, getting there and making sure everything is structured and first of all fair. Is taking a little bit longer than we supposed. Secondly, talking about some of these implementations, rolling out, plugging in the appliance, vetting those cameras, tuning those cameras where appropriately. That is something that we do with our SIs, or apart from them if that's preferred. But I have found that among our integrator partners, installation of gun detect and vetting of cameras has become a driver for camera sales as well. So if that's a place that you are in the market, if you not just install but also are a vendor for cameras, gun detect can certainly help there. We talk about existing footprints, but when we're talking about deploying and tweaking and getting specific performance, sometimes there does need to be some juggling around of cameras, or an opportunity to install new cameras for improved performance.
Okay. Chloe, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Kirk and Eric, thank you guys for your time today. Thank you to our audience for joining us as well. I hope everybody found this valuable, found it informative. If you have any questions, please reach out to your TPI rep. We've got another session. If there's somebody else that you feel like needs to hear this message or see this presentation, we will be doing another version of this next Wednesday, the 29th at 3 p.m. You can go to TPI's website to our upcoming events to get registered for that. Again, thank you for your time, Eric. Fantastic job. Kirk, thank you very much. You guys have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.